Alright, I'm about to start this mess. Boy, I sure could live without doing this. So I picked up the new starter at the AutoZone. 55 smackers. I got $11 for the core. So this is it. This is a new one. Lifetime warranty, actually. So the first thing you're going to do, for me, is get my tools ready. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is disconnect these wires. So I picked out the wrenches I need. They're both metric, a 16 and an 8 millimeter. It's a good idea to go around and make sure everything around here is nice and tight, and it is. So I've got those tools picked out, and then once I'm underneath, I'm going to have two big bolts here that underneath that I have to drop down. I don't remember what they are, if they're metric or American, so I've got both sockets. I've got a small breaker bar, a ratchet, and a short and a long extension, because I'm going to take all that stuff down there with me, so hopefully I'll have everything I need. So once these are disconnected up on top, then all I'll have to do is do the bottom. Okay, well, you just saw me giving this thing a good test to make sure it's nice and stable. I cannot budge this thing anywhere. It may look kind of unsafe, and it does look a little bit scary like this, but believe me, it is solid. I've got a piece of wood under that wheel, which wouldn't do me much. I've got this big cement house block with wood. I've got this jack stand here, the main jack stand. That's an 8-ton jack stand. I got two of those. As you can see, I got a bunch of wood underneath that. Then coming over here, I've got another 8-ton underneath the A-frame. And then the floor jack is basically just snug up against the cross member there. So it's good. Over here, I've got more wood. I've got another house block that is holding that up. I've got two hydraulics there, kind of to take the pressure off the rear wheel, which is blocked. The e-brake's on. So this thing is about as secure as I can make it. I'm not too worried about it, honestly. So I've got this nice piece of carpet that I carry around with me, and it's perfect for laying down underneath a vehicle. I'll be able to just slide that underneath there, put the tools I need on it, slide it underneath. I really don't got to go that far. In fact, I don't think I'd even have to go any farther under there. So I didn't have, when I did this before, 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't have this thing, this cool headlamp. And this is going to help out a tremendous amount. I highly recommend having one of these for any kind of car work, especially something like this, being underneath there. And my next thing that I'm going to do, I think this is going to come in really handy. And that's going to be disconnecting my wires. I should have done that before I ever jacked it up, because the only way to disconnect all the wiring that goes to the starter, and let's turn our headlamp on now. There's full blast. You can see the starter down there, I hope. You can see that. You can see the wiring, the big cable, and then on the other side of that is the stuff that goes to the ignition switch and all that. There's only 2 wires to disconnect, and they got to be done from up here. It's impossible to reach them from down below. I know, I tried that before and it didn't work. So now I can't reach it. That's as far as I can reach because the truck's too far up in the air. So I need to take my spare tire and put it down here and hope that that's going to get me up there. If it's not, then I got to build myself some kind of a ramp so I can get up there to make that disconnect, because I can't do anything else until that's done. Oh, what a drag. Took me about 15 minutes to get those 2 wires disconnected. First of all, I wasn't up high enough. Had to go get my picnic table bench And then I discovered that it's not a 14 millimeter, it's actually a 5/16, so the little one. And I couldn't break that one loose without a ratchet, so. But I finally got it broke loose, so. Anyway, so now it's time to crawl underneath and get all my toys and bring them down, including the new starter, and pull that down. Alrighty, here we are. I don't know what the camera can see. Alrighty, starter is way over here. So I got to continue to scoot back. Well, indeed, there's not enough room to really get the camera in there and get a good shot, and it's dark and all the rest. Once I got under there, I noticed there was a cross member I'd forgotten about going from the bell housing to the engine block, so I had to unbolt that, one end of it, and move it out of the way, and then that was taken care of. Then I could just start unbolting the starter, start removing that. The shims came down and hit me in the head, and then it's time to pull the last bolt out of the starter. And now it's a struggle to get it out of there because it's got to be moved forward and then twisted around and then aimed down, and finally it comes down. Okay, now we're to the point to where we're going to put the new starter in. And I don't know what this thing weighs because I don't have any way of weighing it, but it must say somewhere. But I'm going to guess that this is a good solid 8 to 10 pounds. It's pretty heavy. It's a little difficult to deal with. So you're laying on your back on the ground and the starter's above you, and you don't have very much room to work. So when it came out, when the old one came out, you take the 2 bolts off. These are the two bolt holes here. You take the 2 bolts down, and then the starter will drop down a little bit. It'll catch on the bell housing here, and then up here the frame will catch it. And now you got to try to get it out of there because it won't come down any farther. So now you have to lift it up and you have to push it forward, and I think you twist it a little bit, and when you finally clear the bell housing, now you can start bringing it down between the A arm, control arm area and the frame, and you got almost no space, and you got to kind of get it like that, and then it'll eventually drop all the way down. And if you're laying right underneath of it, this is really precarious. It's really difficult. Old starter did have shims in it. What it's gonna be, the shims will fit like that, and you can actually see this tab from underneath the hood. At least I could, with a good powerful light. If you're looking this direction and when you're bent over the fender, you should be able to see that tab. That's how the shims go in there. You might be lucky enough that you don't have any shims, and if you don't have any shims to start with, then you don't have to put them back, and that's going to be a big help because the shims is one of the hardest parts to reinstalling the new starter. So it's going to go the same exact way. You're going to be laying on the ground with this starter 2 inches from your face or so, and you're going to have it pointed in this direction. It's going to have to go up. The frame is going to be right here. The control arm's going to be here. You got to get it up in there so far, and then at some point you can turn it, and it's got to go forward. Now you got to try to get this thing in past the bell housing, and it's a big struggle, and you're tired because you're holding 8 to 10 pounds, and finally it goes. So now it'll rest. This on the bell housing and this on the frame, and now you can take a break. Once you're to that point, you've got half the battle done. If you got to have shims, now you got a whole nother other half of the battle. So now we'll turn it around like that. So what you would do is you'll start feeding in this bolt first. Well, you have to leave one bolt out if you're going to put the shims in. And it's going to be this bolt here, I'm sorry. You're going to feed this bolt in and you're going to get it started so that it's holding it up there, and you want about that much space, and you'll have enough threads on the bolt to be able to do that. You don't want it to go all the way tight, and then once it's up there, it'll kind of play around and everything. But now you got to figure out some way to get this ding-dong shim in there, and there's no space. You got the control arm right here, you got the frame right here, you got the exhaust manifold right here. You'll be able to get one hand up in there, and the only way I could do it was I got to come up this way on this side. There's a little bit of space. You'll be able to actually see if you're directly underneath of it. You'll be able to see right up here, and the engine block is of course right here. And you get your shim up here, and you got to get it up here, and then you got to somehow, you actually go up like this. You got to find this space, and once you get that in there, and you're doing this all with one hand, the starter's supporting itself, but you can't get another hand in there. And then eventually, you'll be able to see this side too. I'm sorry, you'll see this side and this side. You'll see the engine block up here, but you'll eventually see this shim start to appear over here. And now you can kind of figure where it's going to go, back it off, and then I was actually able to see this corner, and I was able to tell that it was in place. So now, what you have to do is you got to get this final bolt in. So now this shim is going to be, it's there, but now it's going to be moving around, and you got to find the hole in the block to bolt that up. And it's not too difficult. And they give you this tool here, and that's exactly what that's for. You're supposed to stick that up this way. And honestly, I just used a screwdriver because it's not a real good tool, but you'll get that anyway with the starter. You'll get shims. So anyway, once you got that, and then you've got that lined up, and then you got that bolt, now you're done. You finally got it in there, and it plan on 15 minutes or more just trying to do this job here. It is a real headache, and this is not a job that anybody's going to enjoy. Certainly I don't, and I hope I never have to do another one. But now you got it to the point to where it's actually bolted to the engine block, but now you need to, work your bolts tight, and then get them both tight and cinch them down really good, and then you're done. The starter is installed. The shim should be installed correctly if you can see it now. If you can see the tab like that, if it's way over here, and it won't go any farther than that. So if it's like way over here, then you're not correct. But it's got to be lined up. I actually marked my shim to know when I'm underneath there which way it's supposed to go. Because if you get it backwards, you're gonna sit here forever trying to figure this out, and it's such a pain just to get it up there and get it. Yeah, it's a drag. So once you're done with that, now we can go back up on top and bolt this up. So now let's go ahead and get this son of a gun installed. Alright, I think I got it. It took me about another 12 to 15 minutes to get the starter re-bolted back up. I got the original shims in it, and I've got it cinched down. I didn't tighten up the cross member brace thing. I don't even know what it's called, but I didn't bother with that yet. So now the next order of business is to put the bench back up against the tire and climb over the fender and reattach those wires and then give it a shot. Oh man, we're going to be really nervous to do that. Okay, well, that went together a little bit easier than it did when it came apart. And I'm talking about the connecting my wiring up. I don't know if the camera, maybe I can zoom in down there to show you. That's it right there. That's the, shed some light on it. Those are my wiring connections. They're tight, but I definitely need to double check them once this thing's down off the jack. So anyway, what's there left to do now? Connect my battery up, make sure there's not a short, and then fire this thing up. I have disconnected my coil wire because I don't want it to start. I just want to listen to it turn over. And oh my goodness! That is what it's supposed to sound like. That's exactly what it's supposed to sound like. Well, she's running like a top now. Started right up. Everything looks good. Well, really glad to have my truck running good again. That was a lot of work. So hopefully this how to change a starter in a 91 Chevy S10 was helpful to somebody out there. Hopefully I can... Oh, thanks for watching.